In the remote countryside of Devonshire stood a forgotten mansion known only as Hollow Manor. Locals whispered that it was cursed, abandoned after a fire nearly consumed it in the late 1800s. Yet, what most people didn't know was that deep within its charred halls, hidden under dust and ivy, remained a marble statue unlike any other. The villagers said it wasn't carved, it was created. No one remembered who brought it there or when it arrived, only that it was found standing in the grand hall the morning after the fire. Some claimed they saw it move just slightly when no one was looking. Others swore they heard faint breathing echoing from the stone itself. And in the years that followed, anyone who dared to enter the manor never came back quite the same. Decades later, an art historian named Dr. Adrian Wells arrived in the nearby village of Meryton. His passion was discovering forgotten sculptures, and when he heard about the marble figure in Hollow Manor, his curiosity became obsession. The locals warned him, "Never go near the statue, it watches you back." Adrian laughed it off, calling it rural superstition. One cold morning in November, armed with lanterns, notebooks, and an old camera, he ventured into the ruins alone. The gates creaked open as if resisting him. Inside, the air was thick with damp and silence. And there, in the center of the grand hall, stood the statue, tall, elegant, almost human. Its face was turned slightly upward, eyes closed, as if frozen in prayer or pain. Adrian circled the statue slowly, admiring the craftsmanship. The marble was impossibly smooth, like real skin, and cold to the touch. He noticed faint cracks around the statue's eyes, thin, spiderweb-like veins of dark gray stone that hadn't been caused by time, but by something else. As he leaned closer to sketch it, his lantern flickered, and he thought, just for an instant, that the statue's lips had parted. His pencil fell to the ground. He froze, staring. But when he blinked, it was still. The silence pressed against his ears. "Imagination," he muttered to himself, but deep down, his hands wouldn't stop trembling. As the evening shadows lengthened, Adrian set up his camera on a tripod, determined to capture the statue before nightfall. Each flash illuminated the ruined hall, the broken chandeliers, the blackened walls, the dust motes dancing in the cold air. Yet each photograph he took showed something slightly different. The statue's head tilted, its arms shifted, the mouth barely open. He convinced himself it was just angles and light. But as he flipped through the photos under the lantern glow, he froze. In the last picture, the statue's eyes were open, looking directly at him. A chill rushed through his body, his breath visible in the sudden cold. He turned his lantern toward the figure. It stood as before, serene, motionless. Yet the faint echo of a woman's sigh filled the hall, so soft it could have been the wind. But the windows were sealed with soot and rot. Adrian packed his equipment quickly, whispering to himself, "It's just the air, just the air." But even as he left, he could feel those unseen eyes following him until he reached the gate. That night, at the inn, Adrian couldn't sleep. The photographs lay spread out on his desk. The last one, the one where the statue stared, seemed to throb faintly under the lamplight, as if the image itself was alive. He blinked, and for a split second he thought he saw the pupils move. He tore his gaze away, heart pounding. Around midnight, a faint piano note echoed through the room. He froze. There was no piano in the inn. Yet the melody continued, slow, sorrowful, hauntingly familiar. He followed the sound down the hallway, past empty rooms and flickering candles. The tune stopped at his door when he returned, and his photographs were scattered across the floor, forming the shape of a face. The marble woman's face. By morning, Adrian decided to return to the manor. He couldn't explain the fear gnawing inside him, nor the strange pull that seemed to call him back. He packed his lantern and camera again, his hands shaking as he climbed the overgrown path. The gates were already open, though he swore he had locked them. Inside, the hall was colder than before, the air thick and metallic, like the smell of blood. The statue stood where he'd left it, but this time the floor beneath was wet. A thin trail of dark liquid ran from the statue's base toward the wall. He knelt to inspect it, and his breath caught. It wasn't water. It was blood. The blood trail led to a mirror shattered long ago. Beneath its cracked surface, he saw movement. A woman's reflection standing behind him. He turned sharply, the lantern swinging, but there was nothing. When he faced the mirror again, the reflection was closer, her eyes hollow, her mouth whispering soundlessly. Words began to etch themselves on the dusty glass, written by an invisible hand. "Free me." Adrian stumbled backward, his mind spiraling between logic and terror. He whispered, "Who are you?" The flame flickered violently, and for a heartbeat, the reflection smiled. Then everything went black. He awoke hours later, lying on the cold marble floor. His lantern was shattered, his notebook soaked in crimson smears. The statue had moved. It now stood closer to where he had fallen, one hand slightly outstretched. Its eyes were open. He scrambled back, breath ragged. "This isn't real," he kept repeating. But then he noticed something horrifying. The statue's marble hand was dripping fresh blood, the same blood that stained his notebook. He looked down at his arm. A deep gash ran across his wrist, though he hadn't felt a thing. Panic overtook reason. Adrian fled the manor, running through the tangled woods, not daring to look back. Yet with every step, he felt the weight of unseen footsteps behind him, synchronized with his own. When he reached the village, he burst into the church, collapsing before the priest. Between sobs, he spoke of the statue, the mirror, the blood. The priest paled, whispering prayers under his breath. "That statue, it was made from her," he finally said. "The lady of the manor, burned in the fire. They say her soul fused with the marble." Adrian didn't return to Hollow Manor again, but the statue didn't stay there either. A week later, the manor collapsed completely. The villagers searched the ruins. The statue was gone. No traces, no fragments. Only a single photograph remained, the one Adrian had taken that first night. In it, the marble woman stood as before, except now, she was smiling. And her eyes, they were open. Days passed, yet Adrian couldn't escape the feeling that the statue was still watching him. Every night, he'd wake up drenched in sweat, certain he heard footsteps pacing the corridor outside his room. The sound was slow, deliberate, heel, pause, heel. Once, he opened the door suddenly, but the hallway was empty, the air heavy with the faint scent of burnt jasmine. He started keeping the lantern lit all night, though the flame often dimmed without reason, flickering as if someone exhaled beside it. He began dreaming of marble, cold hands pressing against his chest, a woman's voice whispering, "You freed me. Now let me live." When he awoke one dawn, he found fingerprints on the inside of his window, smooth, pale, and dusted with gray powder. Marble dust. He tried to leave Meriton, packed his bags before sunrise, left a note for the innkeeper, and drove his carriage toward the coast. But halfway through the journey, a dense fog descended, thick as smoke. The horse grew restless, neighing and refusing to move forward. Adrian stepped down to calm it, and there, by the roadside, stood a figure. It was a woman, pale as moonlight, wearing tattered lace, her eyes hollow yet shimmering faintly. She wasn't breathing. He stumbled backward, whispering, "No!" The woman tilted her head, the same delicate movement as the statue's. When she raised her hand, her skin cracked slightly, and beneath it, Adrian saw stone. Then the fog swallowed her, and she vanished. But when he looked at his hands, fine gray dust clung to his palms. By the time he returned to the village, because somehow, no matter which road he took, he always ended up back there, the townspeople avoided him. Children crossed the street when he passed, and the priest stopped answering his door. Adrian's eyes grew hollow, his voice weak, and his skin pale like marble. He spent his nights muttering to himself, sketching the same face over and over again, the woman from the statue. Some villagers swore they saw candlelight flickering in his window at midnight, and a second shadow moving behind him. They said sometimes, a woman's laughter echoed faintly from his room, though he lived alone. One morning, the innkeeper found his door open and the room empty, the air thick with dust. On the desk lay a single marble finger. Smooth, cold, freshly broken. A month later, a stranger arrived in Meryton, a collector from London, seeking artifacts from the ruins of Hollow Manor. He heard whispers about the historian who'd vanished, and curiosity drove him to investigate. The villagers begged him not to go near the manor, but he laughed, just as Adrian had. When he reached the collapsed site, the air grew colder, heavier. Among the stones and ivy, he found something gleaming. A statue, half buried, its surface clean and flawless, though the mansion around it was nothing but ash. The collector brushed away the dirt and stared. The statue was perfect, lifelike. A man this time, his name carved faintly into the base. A. Wells. That night, the collector brought the statue back to his London gallery. He admired it, unaware of the faint warmth radiating from the marble, or the way its eyelids twitched under lamplight. He told his assistant, "This piece will make history." But as midnight struck, the gallery lights flickered. The night guard later swore he heard footsteps in the exhibition hall, and a man whispering, "Free me!" When morning came, the statue stood in the center of the room, and beside it, a second figure, unfinished, emerging from the same block of marble. His face was beginning to take shape. For the next few weeks, strange events plagued the gallery. Visitors claimed to hear faint whispers near the statue, like someone speaking from behind glass. Some swore the marble eyes followed them as they walked by, while others said they smelled burnt jasmine, though no candles were ever lit. The curator dismissed it as imagination, but he started noticing something himself. Every morning, the statue's position seemed slightly different. His head tilted a little more, its lips parted just a fraction, and sometimes the dust around its base formed patterns, footprints, small and human-like, leading toward the curator's office. He stopped sleeping at the gallery, but the dreams followed him home. In his dreams, he saw Adrian Wells, not as a man, but as stone given breath. Adrian's face was twisted, trapped halfway between agony and reverence, whispering endlessly, "It needs form. It needs life." Behind him, a figure moved, the woman, the first statue, her eyes empty but alive with hunger. Every night she came closer. Every night, he woke up with the taste of dust on his tongue and a faint bruise on his chest, shaped like a hand. He tried to destroy the statue once, lifting a hammer high above his head. But before he could strike, the marble eyes blinked, and for a heartbeat, he felt an overwhelming sadness, as if something ancient and lonely was pleading not to die. He dropped the hammer and whispered, "I'm sorry." The next morning, his assistant found him sitting before the statue, motionless, eyes open but unseeing. He was pale, his hands coated in a thin layer of marble dust. The statue beside him had changed, its expression softer, almost human, and on its chest, faint cracks formed in the shape of veins, as if blood might soon flow beneath the surface. Police called it exhaustion, though none could explain the faint echo that filled the hall when they moved the statue. A whisper, barely audible, "Thank you." That night, the gallery closed for maintenance. It never reopened. Months passed. The gallery was abandoned, its windows covered in grime, its halls silent except for the wind. But sometimes, late at night, the street lamps outside flickered, and passers-by swore they saw movement behind the glass. A silhouette shifting, watching. The legend of the hollow statue spread through London, inspiring ghost stories and urban myths. Yet one winter evening, a young sculptor named Eliza broke into the gallery, seeking inspiration. She carried a chisel, a lantern, and a heart full of ambition. She found the statue at the center of the dust-filled hall, standing tall and magnificent. "You're beautiful," she whispered. "I can finish what they started." And when she touched the marble, it was warm. The next morning, a passerby noticed the gallery doors ajar. Inside, everything was covered in dust except the statue. It gleamed, flawless, and beside it stood a second figure, smaller, feminine, her face half-formed, her eyes still closed. On the floor lay Eliza's tools, and a single note written in hurried strokes. It whispered my name. From that day, no one entered the gallery again. But those who walk past it at night still claim to hear two voices inside. One male, one female, softly humming an unfinished song. 3 weeks after Eliza's disappearance, the police sealed the gallery. No family came forward, no friends filed a report. It was as if she had been erased from every record. But those who lived near the old Meriton Street swore that at night, the lights inside the gallery would flicker to life. Some heard the faint sound of a chisel tapping stone, slow and rhythmic, echoing through the walls. A homeless man who slept across the street said he saw movement inside. A woman sculpting something under a lantern glow, though no one else believed him. When he tried to prove it, breaking a window and peeking in, he vanished before dawn. Only his coat remained, folded neatly on the doorstep, dusted with marble powder. Months passed again, and the story turned into rumor, until the gallery was purchased by a private collector, Mr. Alistair Cray, a man obsessed with cursed art. He restored the building and held a grand reopening, declaring that the statue of Hollow Manor would be the centerpiece of his exhibition. On the night of the unveiling, the guests were captivated. The two statues, the original male and the half-formed female, stood side by side, perfect in balance and beauty. Some guests whispered that their expressions were almost tender. But when the lights dimmed for the curator's speech, someone screamed. Both statues were now holding hands. The crowd thought it a trick, clever lighting, perhaps a hidden mechanism. But Mr. Cray's smile faltered when he noticed something else. The female statue's face, once incomplete, was now whole, perfect, and her eyes were open. The marble gleamed with a lifelike sheen, veins of faint gray pulsing beneath its surface. Suddenly, the chandeliers flickered violently. The floor trembled. One of the guests stumbled backward, gasping as blood trickled from her nose. Every mirror in the room cracked at once. The sound was deafening, and when the lights went out completely, the last thing anyone heard was the soft sound of footsteps. Not hurried, not human, just slow, deliberate steps moving closer. When dawn came, the gallery was empty. The doors locked from the inside. Police broke in, finding overturned tables, shattered glass, and dozens of coats left behind, as if every guest had vanished mid-breath. In the center of the hall stood the two statues, unchanged, except for one haunting detail. Each now wore an expression of peace, their hands joined over a small third figure between them, a child. The marble child's eyes were closed, but on its lips rested the faintest smile. No one could explain it. The statues were removed, stored in separate crates, and shipped to different museums across Europe. But within months, both institutions burned down in unexplained fires. Years later, a historian researching the fires noticed a disturbing pattern. In each incident, witnesses described hearing soft footsteps moments before the blaze, followed by the faint hum of a lullaby echoing through the corridors. One elderly guard from the Paris Museum swore he saw silhouettes of 3 figures walking hand in hand through the flames, untouched by them. He died in his sleep that night, clutching a small marble hand no one could identify. And today, some say if you visit the ruins of Hollow Manor, you can still hear chiseling in the dark, and a whisper behind you saying softly, "The sculpture isn't finished yet." The legend of the hollow statue refused to die. Artists spoke of it in whispers, and collectors traded rumors like forbidden relics. A century after its first creation, a university in Oxford announced a shocking discovery. A crate sealed since 1912 had been found in an abandoned cellar beneath the art department. Inside, beneath rotted cloth and dust, lay fragments of marble, smooth, white, and still warm to the touch. Among the fragments, they found a journal bound in cracked leather, its pages filled with sketches, diagrams, and frantic handwriting. The last entry read, "They are not statues, they are vessels, and one remains incomplete." The handwriting matched that of Dr. Adrian Wells. A team of researchers began reconstructing the fragments, driven by curiosity and the promise of fame. But strange things started happening in the laboratory. Equipment failed, lights flickered, Security cameras showed brief, distorted images of figures standing near the marble pieces when no one was there. One night, Professor Lane, the lead restorer, stayed behind to finish cataloging the fragments. At midnight, he heard the faint sound of chiseling. He thought it came from the next room, but when he entered, the sound stopped. The air was heavy, the smell of stone dust thick. On his workbench lay a single new piece of marble, smooth and freshly cut. But no one else had access to the lab. He checked the camera footage the next morning. At exactly 12:03 a.m., a silhouette appeared beside him, tall, motionless, and its reflection in the glass was smiling. Days later, Professor Lane's assistant entered the lab to find the marble fragments arranged differently. The pieces now formed the faint outline of a human torso, incomplete but unmistakably alive in form. She swore she saw the chest rise slightly, as though it were breathing. Panicking, she called the police. By the time they arrived, Lane was gone. The marble figure, however, had changed again. A faint hand now reached outward, touching the edge of the table. Beneath it, carved into the wood, were 4 chilling words. "I hear you, Adrian." The case was closed as psychological breakdown. But the assistant left Oxford the next day, claiming she still heard tapping at night from inside her walls. Years passed again. The rebuilt fragments disappeared from university archives, and rumors spread that a wealthy collector had purchased them privately. No one knew where they were taken until recently. A viral video surfaced online. A man live streaming from his basement, showing a marble sculpture he claimed to have inherited from his grandfather. The statue was tall, elegant, its eyes closed, its lips curved in a serene half-smile. Midway through the stream, viewers noticed something the man didn't. The statue's hand moved. Slowly, gracefully, it reached toward the camera. The video cut off abruptly. The user's account was deleted within hours, but copies of the clip still circulate under one name: The Return of Hollow. Today, Hollow Manor stands in ruins, its stones overgrown with ivy and silence. Locals avoid it, but sometimes tourists wander too close, drawn by the story. Those who do say they feel watched, not from the windows but from the ground itself. And on moonless nights, if you stand near the crumbled hall and listen closely, you might hear it again. The faint scrape of metal on stone, like a chisel carving flesh. Then a whisper, so close it feels like breath on your neck. Art never dies. It only waits to be finished. And when you turn around, there's always one more statue than before.